Gather round, my friends. I know, it's been some time since I've graced you with my voice, but trust me when I say that your wait shall soon be rewarded. It is I, the bard of great renown, the traveller of many temptations, Calamus Acarus. And what you're about to hear from the Debonair Debutant is the culmination of our journey, the crescendo of our tale, the epic finale of our adventure across the continent. It is rife with peril and filled with cunning. The conclusion to our clash with the bastardly Renwick is filled with action, near misses, romance, the return of old friends, and perhaps, if you play your cards right, a shocking reveal or two. But before we can see the end, we must first return to where we've been, would you not agree? So, my darlings, my little sparrow doves, let us take a moment to reflect. Perhaps by chance, perhaps by destiny, it began in Vizima. The bear witcher Ingrid of Cintra, and Nyoka, the viper witcher, though travelling separately, both found themselves looking for a moment of respite in Vizima. What they found instead was Circe Aveline, a sorceress of some renown, having set up a shop in Vizima after her original place of business was destroyed during the sacking of Cintra. Now, as you might have noticed from her moniker, Ingrid also draws roots from Cintra. And it just so happens that these two ladies were actually well acquainted. No, not like that, you flotsam. After a touching reunion. No, I didn't mean touching that way. Ingrid, having met Nyoka just as the two were arriving in town, introduced Nyoka to her long-lost friend. Thus their paths converged, and trouble began dogging at their heels. It wasn't long before the trio uncovered a plot. Nilfgaardian spies taking refuge in an old opera house in Vizima. All three had a reason to hate the Nilfgaardians, and so took it upon themselves to dispatch and bring their secrets to the Burgermeister, who had been cooperating with the Nilfgaardians in secret under threat of violence to his family or something or other. You know, folk always make excuses for turning a blind eye to evil. With that matter seemingly resolved, the trio agreed to take a contract to rid Vizima of another threat that plagued the city. Something vampiric in nature was harrowing the farmers and common folk that resided along the edges of Vizima's safety. Our gathering of heroes tracked these beasts to a cave, only to find one of them, a Garcane, already slain and pinned to the cave wall, brutally dispatched by something seemingly inhuman in its own right. But our heroes returned to take care of what remained of the Garcanes, and claimed their reward from the Burgermeister. That night, however, the very creature who had pinned the dead Garcane to the cave wall appeared in Circe's room, revealing herself to be a higher vampire, and Circe's secret love, Elodie. Having been apart for some time, the two shared a lovely reunion and a passionate turning of the sheets, which I will now do them the courtesy of keeping any further details private. If not for them, then perhaps my own safety is to be taken into account. While the two enjoyed their reunion, Ingrid's night was far less joyous. Ingrid, racked with the grief of the memories of her past, was visited not by a long-lost love, but instead the nightmares of love lost. Ingrid dreamt of her fellow bear witcher's fall, destroyed at the hands of a higher vampire gone mad on his own supply, Renwick, and his tribunal of frost or something or other. She remembered Erin, her own love, cut down right in front of her, and the fall of Hen Caduc, totally and completely. Just one room over, Nyoka wrestled with his own memories. The Viper dreamt of his time as a kingslayer and of his time in the halls of Gorthurgavaid. He dreamt of gathering knowledge and hidden secrets to be used against the coming threats. He dreamt of his ultimate mission, the impending battle against the wild hunt, and the terror that they could bring to this realm. On the morn, our witches became acquainted with Elodie, much to Circe's trepidation. though the conversation was revealing in its own way. Elodie was familiar with the creature that haunted Ingrid's past, and when further pressed about her involvement with Renwick, another truth came to light for our dear witches. Their senses keen, their training thorough, they determined that Elodie was indeed a higher vampire, not unlike Renwick. After some tumultuous conversation, an understanding was reached. The group went on to discover one of Renwick's own agents beneath Vizima, and even managed to dispatch him, retrieving a valuable tome of magic from this servitor. But their celebration was short-lived, as Elodie revealed to them, with this servant slain, Renwick would surely come seeking the book himself. You see, this book was key to Renwick's ultimate goal, to rip open a portal and allow the wild hunt to ride through the continent and bring doom and destruction upon all of mankind. The group endeavored to train, to prepare for his arrival, so that they might free the world of his machinations once and for all. They spent the next few weeks, I presume, training and gathering information on Renwick's movements and when he would arrive. The battlefield was selected, a masquerade ball of all places would be held upon Lord Renwick's arrival, and an ambush would be well laid and executed. After training the trio to face a higher vampire, Elodie departed, hoping to perform reconnaissance on Renwick's arrival. The weeks passed swiftly with no word from Elodie. The group laid their trap. The night of the masquerade, they faced off against Renwick, using all they had learned and every tool at their disposal. Still, it seemed not to be enough, and when Yoka lost his arm to the higher vampire in a spray of viscera, the trio feared that this might all be for naught. And yet, as always looming, a greater tragedy struck. For outside of the clashing of heroes and villains, the drums of war did beat down the city walls of Vizima. The Third Nilfgaardian War had begun. Unprepared for this additional element, with the walls crashing down around them, our trio fled, gathering what supplies they could in order to survive. Our heroes fled into uncertainty, determining that Aretusa would be the best place to recuperate and recover. Along the way, still wounded and desperately in need of rest, Nyoka departed from his friends in the dead of the night, leaving behind his sword for Ingrid, urging her to remember what a witch's purpose was. The trio, now a duo, carried on to Aretusa, where they recovered and gathered allies for their mission to stop Renwick's plot. Circe, having reconnected with her fellow mages, was inducted to a secret society known as the Lodge of Sorceresses, and through this was able to orchestrate a bounty on all vampiric creatures across the continent, in the hopes that various hunters and witches would thin out Renwick's forces. Meanwhile, Ingrid, bereft at what she could only see as another failure, undertook a risky mutation and through much pain emerged faster, stronger, and more prepared to face the horrors soon to come. The duo departed Aretusa in search of rare artifacts that would aid in their battles. Teleporting to the city of Bruges, it was there they gained new allies: the bard Calamus Acarus and thief Relg Gwythain. United, this newly formed group of heroes managed to capture Renwick's new head mage, Wezrold, and convinced him to see the errors of his ways, mostly on my part if I might be so bold, turning him from Renwick's cause and back toward a brighter path. On our journey in search of the artifacts needed to aid in our quest, we, these heroes, faced many dangers, met many friends, and grew closer than we could have ever imagined in such a short time. With the artifacts retrieved, when Circe used her magics to scry on Elodie and see what became of her poor love, she could only find the darkness of Renwick's dungeon at Hen Kaduk. There was no question amongst us what needed to be done. We executed a daring plan to rescue Elodie, teleporting into dungeons and slaying their guards. I myself came face to face with the devil Renwick and lived to tell the tale. Immediately following our escape, we packed our things and Circe comforted our dear Elodie. Assessing the damage done to her psyche, Circe, perhaps without full grasp of what she had done, cursed Renwick. Through her hate and malcontent, she cursed the higher vampire with casual words, an unrefined, primal sort of magic. Having rescued Elodie and maintaining our hold on the tome that Renwick needed to bring his plan to fruition, we fled to a place where we could recover and hopefully get some much-needed rest. Cintra. The outskirts of Cintra, anyway. Ingrid kept a cabin long ago before the city fell to Nilfgaardian control, and that is where we found our moment of respite. There we took the time we needed to center ourselves. We fell into a sort of rhythm, actually. Cersei saw to Elodie, helping her recover from the horror she faced. Relg, newly a prospector, busied himself with hunting and a bit of exposure therapy to overcome his fear of magic, particularly of the fiery variety. We even found time to visit my family, where my parents finally had a chance to meet the man, or rather the elf, I hoped to spend the rest of my life with. They took to Relg almost immediately, though I can't say I had any doubt of that. For the majority of my days, I trained with Ingrid to enhance my own abilities, so that I would be ready when the time came to undertake the trial of grasses myself, so that I can be ready for the change, so that I will become a Witcher. Despite the work, those were pleasant weeks. It's a shame it all had to end. Though, reflecting, I don't miss the hot oats and mushrooms. I think deep down we knew Renwick would come, that he would try to find us. I just don't think we thought it would be so soon. Flames on the horizon. We knew it was Cintra. We knew it was him. He had found us, returned to burn Cintra anew, to destroy our home, my home, once more. But I say nay, sir. Nay, as we gather what supplies we have. Nay, as we gather together, weapons, arms, and armaments in hand, ready to beat back the darkness falling over our lives once more. Nay, sir, as we step through the portal, prepared to fight a mad, higher vampire bent on sullying what good there is left in this world. I am Calamus Acaris, slayer of Bruxers, son of an alchemist, lover of one elf, and the last lion of Cintra. I am Lloyd Bowen. And today, Renwick, I will show you the fury of a Witcher.